A Florida mayor who claims to support capitalism is pushing for a socialist system of rental assistance for tenants. I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. Alright, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's coming out of a suburb of the city of Miami, Florida, right? And in this city, basically, and all across the country, rents have skyrocketed, but especially in southern Florida down there near Miami, okay? And right now, a lot of tenants are feeling the pinch. I mean, this is going to be inevitable in a place that's as popular as Florida. And on top of that, we've got the highest inflation in 30 plus years happening right now. I mean, it was more than 7% last year. So prices of everything are increasing, including the cost for us landlords. Okay. So when we raise rents, it isn't because, we're just being greedy. No, I mean, our property taxes are higher. Our utilities are higher. Our insurance is higher. Our maintenance is higher. We have to pay our staff or the people working for us more. And all those things, they add up. At the same time, we're trying to make a profit off of these properties that we own. Okay, so we're going to have to raise rents, and if we keep our rents at the level that they're at right now, we start to lose money. Okay, this isn't some huge property margin game where we're making huge profits and we can just take that loss. No, we're going to have to raise these rents. Now, these tenants are really struggling because of that. And down in Miami, in this little town called Hialeah, the mayor there, this mayor positioned himself as more conservative, much more, landlord friendly, anti-socialism. And then he comes out and he has to clarify, hey, I'm a capitalist. I believe in capitalism. But at the same time, he's pushing for these rental assistance programs that are very socialist, right? And I can see through it, okay? You're speaking out of both sides of your mouth. This is something that politicians do a lot, okay? They claim to support one thing, but then they go off and they do another thing, And this is why I'm not a big fan of a lot of these politicians, okay? And this is why landlords have to fight for their rights. Now, he isn't doing anything that's too bad, okay? He's not trying to impose anything ridiculous like rent control or any additional eviction protections, but, it's a slippery slope when we're talking about socialism, okay? We start off with, hey, the government is paying your rent for you, and next thing you know is like, well, maybe rents are too high, so we have to cap the rents. You know what I mean? It's a very slippery slope, and this guy who claims to be conservative, he needs to understand that, hey, this is not a long-term solution to these high-price problems. The long-term solution is to increase supply, okay? If there's a high demand and we have a even higher supply, prices will come down. And we, overall throughout the entire country, we've got to get rid of this horrible inflation. And unfortunately, what that means is the Federal Reserve Bank is going to be raising interest rates, and it's going to be harder for us to purchase real estate going into the future. Now, when I read about them raising interest rates, like I said, it's going to make it harder for us to purchase, and it's going to lead to higher unemployment. So this could be a rocky economy going into the future, and we'll see, but I don't know exactly what's going to happen. Nobody really does. Now, before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like and subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below, and let me know what you think of this mayor, okay? Do you really think it's, a bad thing that this mayor is pushing for rental assistance, with the way that rents are raising super duper high right now? I mean, I'm kind of torn on this one. If it's a temporary rental assistance program that helps those who are truly in need, and we have to verify that these people are in need, then I'm all for it. But if they think this is some sort of a long-term solution to the problem, then I'm 100% against it, okay? It's not going to help long-term, and we have to find better solutions. So, this article is coming from the MiamiNewsTimes.com, and it says, Hialeah mayor offers federal rental assistance, still supports capitalism. Yeah, and I find it hilarious that, he has to clarify that he still supports capitalism because of the positions that he's taken before. He doesn't want anyone to think that, he's on the side of socialism or communism or whatever, right? And I'm like, hey, actions speak louder than words. Okay, here in the state of Nebraska, our governor turned down additional federal rental assistance money. Why did he do that? Because he wants us to get back into a normal state of being where people aren't dependent upon rental assistance. Now, people are pretty upset that he turned down this federal rental assistance, but I agree with him, okay? We need to get out of this socialist system where the government is paying people's rents for them, and we need to get people back to work. That is the big thing. Unemployment is like 2% here. Now, I know it's much higher down in Florida, and, their economy is much more tourism-based, so it might be a little more difficult, but we need to get to a point where, the government stops with all these freaking handouts and get people back to work, get people paying their own rents like they're supposed to be doing. But let's get into this article and see what it says. For transplants from New York and San Francisco, where wages and the cost of living are higher, Miami's apartments seem like a steal. But for local renters who are already considered the most burdened in the nation, the estimated 34% increase in rents year over year has some residents scratching their heads as they struggle to calculate how to keep a roof over their heads while making ends meet. Hialeah has become ground zero for South Florida's affordable housing affordability crisis. Just last month, tenants at a Hialeah apartment complex protested a 65% rent hike from $1,000 to $1,650 a month, even as a promotional material for a new luxury apartment complex, Shoma Village, where rents will start at $1,700 a month for a studio apartment, touted Hialeah as the Brooklyn of Miami. To address what he called a serious crisis with rent increases in his city, Hialeah Mayor Esteban Steve Bovo Jr. held a press conference at Hialeah City Hall on Tuesday to announce his plan to help residents avoid eviction. So yeah, I feel for these tenants, okay? Rent prices have skyrocketed, especially in South Florida, okay? South Florida is extremely popular right now, okay? A lot of people are leaving places like New York, the Northeast, where it's not only is it cold and the weather sucks, but taxes are high, property costs are high, and they're overregulated by the government. And Florida has a lot less government regulation, a lot more business friendly, a lot more economical for middle class families, etc. And people are moving there. So unfortunately, what that means is there is a lot more demand, but the amount of housing there is, it's not increasing to meet that demand. So increases in rent costs are inevitable. So what that means for these people who are paying this amount right now, they might have to leave this one town of Hialeah and go further out where they can find something that they can afford. And in South Florida, that's difficult, okay? Because the whole area is so popular that it's expensive. So, I personally would love to move to South Florida, but I'm not going to get the same quality of life. I'm not going to have the same size house in South Florida that I have here in Nebraska because it's more expensive. And I realize that. And, it's unfortunate. So, yeah, the mayor is putting in a plan, and let's see what the plan this mayor is thinking about. Beginning this month, the city will use federal coronavirus relief funds to help tenants whose rent went up during the pandemic. Bovo specified that the money could only be used toward rent and could only cover the difference between a tenant's original rent and the new rent. The announcement to use government money to pay for rent raised more than a few local eyebrows. Bovo is a staunch conservative who ran for mayor last year on small government. Yeah, so This mayor, he's a small, he's a small government mayor, and he's pushing this, and you have to live by what if you truly are a small government person and you're talking about using big government funds, like the governor here in Nebraska is a small government conservative, okay, and that's why he turned down additional coronavirus relief funds. And I'm a small government person too. Part of it is that every single penny that you take from this federal government, it's like they've got you now. You have to follow their rules, their stipulations when you take their money, and it's a catch-22. Not only that, but the income taxes that we pay to the federal government are going to increase. The inflation increases. There has to be a point where we just say enough is enough. And you're discouraging people from working, you're increasing inflation, you're making things worse by continuing to take this money. Yeah, the funds are available, but maybe we don't need those funds, and just taking them when you don't need it is a bad idea. So I'm not going to finish the rest of this article, but I just was curious what other people who watch my videos think when you have somebody who claims to be a very staunch conservative, fiscal conservative, who is taking these government funds, and then even though he's only using the funds to make up the difference of your previous rent and the new higher rent, that's still using government funds basically to pay people's rent for them, when these people, they can't actually afford to live in that housing. And do they really think that what happens when the funds dry up? Are these people suddenly going to be able to pay those new higher rents? No, and they're going to face eviction then instead of now. So you've created a place where these tenants are dependent upon the government to even live in their housing. So it's better to just rip that Band-Aid off now, let those people go and find housing they can afford, rather than trying to save them, keep them in housing they can't afford, and then they face eviction going on into the future.